68 teams will soon set their sights on the NCAA National Championship Trophy. This year's road to the Final Four leads to the crossroads of America. And when it ends, a champion will be crowned in Indianapolis. Hey, everybody, I'm Adam Zucker, and welcome to the NCAA March Madness Men's Bracket Preview. The Selection Sunday is 3 weeks from tomorrow. It is great to be joined by my esteemed colleagues, Clark Kellogg, Wally Zerbiak, reigning bracketologist Seth Davis.
Indeed.
This is our 10th bracket preview show, but the most important man in the room is next to me. He is the Sun Belt Commissioner, Keith Gill, and he is the chair of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Selection Committee. We got to go behind the curtain with you this week in Indianapolis in a mock selection process. I think we have a whole new appreciation for the challenges that the committee faces. What has been the hardest thing so far as we get set to unveil the top 16 current seeds?
Yeah, I think, putting together the bracket is always challenging, but player availability this year has been really difficult. And notice I said availability, not injury, because it's a broader category and injury is part of it, but there are different things that can keep a player from being available.
I like that. He's teasing stuff for later.
Yes.
Already. So my understanding, Keith, is that you guys did your bracket on Thursday. Last night we had a game between Purdue and Indiana, which I would imagine one of those teams might pop their way up today. How did you account for that in advance?
Right. It's just like we do in Selection Sunday. There are championship games that haven't been completed as we're putting the bracket together, and we develop contingency brackets. And we had one in the event if Purdue wins or Purdue loses, Indiana wins, Purdue loses, those kind of things. So that's a really important thing.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it again tomorrow with all the crazy stuff we have today.
2 hours.
Lots of changes.
Yeah, for sure.
So without any further ado, let's begin the reveal here, starting with the #1 overall seed.
Right. The #1 overall seed is Michigan in the Midwest. They're one in most of the predictive and resume metrics. They've got 19 wins in quad 1 and 2.
Go blue. 25 wins by double digits. This team has just been dominating college basketball. The size that they have at every position is impressive. A lot of transfers have come together really quick, on top of the fact that they have a loaded bench. Now, they did earn something special by being the #1 seed. There was a significant reward. Can you express to everyone what they get by being the overall #1 seed?
Yeah, the overall #1 seed has the opportunity to choose what region they play in and also where they go for the first and second rounds.
The first, second rounds is the big one, too, because a lot of these teams that we'll see on the one line are going where they would have wanted to go as well. Let's go to the second overall seed, please.
Right, the second overall seed is Duke going to the East. They have 6 wins against the net top 20, and they also are 2 in most of the resume and predictive metrics.
Yeah, well, you look at this Duke team. They've got the front runner for player of the year in Cam Boozer in most people's minds. But what really impresses me about this club is how good it is defensively. They are locking people up, saran wrap type defense from the Blue Devils. Not as explosive offensively, but they've made up for that defensively this season.
Yeah, there you go. And we were joking about having to redo the bracket again based on today's results. You have Duke and Michigan playing each other.
That's right upon us.
Yeah, you'd be scrubbing those seeds right off the bat. Okay, so that's Duke at the 2 spot overall. Who is the #3 seed overall?
The #3 seed would be Arizona going to the West. So they've got 15 wins in quad 1 and 2. They also are 3 in most of the resume and predictive metrics.
Yeah, this team, I saw them in person back in late January against West Virginia. Very impressed with the physicality of this group and how they defend as well. But Koa Pete and Aristotle both unavailable currently. That impacts. They've lost 2 of the last 3. So Arizona very strong, very solid. I don't think there was any question probably about these top 3 teams being on the one line.
But was there a Koa Pete conversation, though?
There was, but this is where there was some consensus, though, in terms of these teams being 1, 2, and 3. When we get to the 4 overall seed, that's where there was a lot more debate.
Yeah.
Yes, and that, I think, is where we need to go next, because I've been very curious about this one. So joining Michigan, Duke, and Arizona, the final #1 seed for the South region
is Iowa State. So a lot of quality wins. Only losses are in quad 1. So it's interesting how this played out during the course of the week. When we adjourned on Wednesday, UConn was in that 4 spot, and they lost to Creighton later that night. When we came back and scrubbed on Thursday, as we looked at it, Iowa State kind of moved up and moved into that 4 spot.
Yeah, a lot to be determined, obviously. This one for me is a little bit of a surprise, Keith, in that I would have had Houston as his fourth number one. Now, you mentioned, interestingly, that there was significant, at this level anyway, separation between the top 3 teams and number 4, but Iowa State just beat Houston. That game was at Iowa State, and it was close. Was that the determining factor, you think? That
was one of the determining factors. There were 3 teams kind of in the last kind of conversations that we had for that last for the last number 1 seed, and it was Iowa State, it was UConn, and then it was also Houston. And the head-to-head on Monday between Iowa State and Houston, and then obviously UConn's loss to Creighton with the scrubbing made Iowa State. You guys started this on Wednesday, so before the UConn-Creighton game, would UConn have been in a good position to be a 1? Yes, they were there on Wednesday, you know, and then after that loss, when we scrubbed on Thursday, you know, that's when Iowa State kind of went ahead.
Yeah, that 17-4 run cost Houston maybe the number 1 seed, and that goes to show you how close these teams are. There's a lot of basketball to be played, but that was an impressive win by the Cyclones, along with a big-time win early in the season when they blew out Purdue at Mackey. That was some impressive stuff. So all these number 1 seeds, very worthy.
Yeah, and when you talk about the scrubbing, could you give us a little more color on that in terms of how these teams are compared to the team on the seed line above and below? Because we went through that in the mock selection on Thursday.
Yeah, so multiple times during our committee process, we will walk through the seed list one by one, and we start the number 1 versus the number 2. We take a look at their team sheets, pros and cons, talk about, hey, do we want to move them? Do we want to keep them where they are? If we decide to move them, then we move one up, then we've got to scrub up against. And it kind of, and we just do that continuously. So it's an arduous process.
And really, I didn't realize you did it on both sides of that comparison. I found that out on Thursday.
Yeah, we do, and it's an important part of what we do to make sure the bracket has integrity.
And you'll do it daily down the stretch heading into Selection Sunday that week. We mentioned that Duke and Michigan are coming up later today. You have Houston, Arizona as well. We often keep most of the top 16 seeds that we do in this reveal come Selection Sunday. But how much do you think things could change?
You know, there are 800 regular season games between now and the start of the conference championship.
That's it?
So, or more, really, there's more than 800. And so there is a lot of basketball left to be played. So it could change a lot. But when you look at it, though, 7 of the first 8 years of the bracket preview show, at least 3 1 seeds that were identified in the bracket preview show were 1 seeds on Selection Sunday. And the only exception to that was in 2023, where it was 4 1 seeds that went from the bracket preview show to the selection show. So there is a lot of kind of coalescing around those things, but there's a lot of games left to be played. So movement can happen.
Sure can. Okay, we are just getting started, of course. We have the top 4 seeds. We're going to round out our Sweet 16 when the NCAA March Madness men's bracket preview continues.
The number 1 overall seed, a Wolverines wave. The Duke Blue Devils, a 1 seed. The execution, flawless by Duke. Coming out with fire.
Oh, boy, Arizona's feeling it.
Iowa State, boy, they are in your face.
One of the best in the country. The 4 number 1 seeds have been revealed. The Iowa State Cyclones are 4th overall. The Arizona Wildcats sit at 3rd. The Duke Blue Devils snag the 2nd overall seed in the East, and Michigan secures the number 1 seed overall. And what do you know it, the Blue Devils and Wolverines squaring off in our nation's capital tonight as we continue the reveal with Keith Gill, the chair of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Selection Committee. Time for the 2 seeds, and we have the regional locations up there now, so pay attention, everybody. Here we go.
All right. The number 5 seed is UConn going to the south. The number 6 seed is Houston going to the Midwest. The number 7 seed is Illinois going to the east. And the number 8 seed is Purdue going to the west.
So the first thing that interests me is the fact that Houston is not going to Houston. They are allowed, people should know, to go to Houston. In this case, they can't go to the same region that another Big 12 team is going. So that's another incentive for Houston to get to that 1 line so they can play in Houston. But my question to you, Keith, is I had Houston as a 1, and now you got them behind UConn by that decision.
It was really close with those 3 teams. We talked about Iowa State and UConn and Houston. The head-to-head between Iowa State and Houston got there. And then the UConn and Houston, UConn's 3 best wins are better than Houston's 3 best wins. And so when the committee was looking at that, they weighted those wins a little higher.
There you go. And another location question would be Illinois would love to be in Chicago. They can't go if Michigan is going to end up there and stay ahead of them, whether they're #1 overall or not. That would be the location for them, as Duke would go to the East as well. So, again, part of this theme is teams from the same conference who are on the top 4 seed lines not being matched up with each other until you have no other choice, which we'll get to as we unveil more of this. Let's continue now with the 3 seeds, Keith, 9 through 12.
All right. Number 9 is Florida, going to the Midwest. Number 10 is Kansas, going to the East.
Okay, and you know what? Let me stop you there, because it turns out we have Kansas on CBS today, poised to make their 36th consecutive NCAA tournament, extending the Division I record. Jayhawks and Cincinnati here on CBS at the top of the hour. So Bill Raftery asked Bill Self about his team's current seed.
Accustomed as you are to a 3-line, are you comfortable with it?
Oh, yeah. You know, being on the 3-line today is the best that we could have ever hoped for, 6 weeks ago. So we've gotten better since then, but it's still so early. 3 can become 7, 8, 9, whatever, or hopefully it can become, stay on the 3 or become a 2 or something. So we got a lot of work ahead of us, but totally comfortable just to be talked about.
Right. You said you're playing better. Is there a shot of moving up 1? What do you have to do to move up 1 line?
Well, if we win out, that's all we got to do is just win out, but I don't know. If you're one of the best 2, 3, 4 teams in our league, you're going to get seated in a pretty good position. And as you know, once you get into the tournament, seed lines are important, but matchups are far more important.
Jump into the league, it's pretty strenuous, obviously, but Cincinnati, as you prepare today?
Yeah, I think they're very, very athletic. They're big up front. They got guards that can go get their own. They're dangerous. And you've seen them, when they make 15 threes in a game, and sometimes they can, go a little bit stale offensively, just like we do. So it should be 2 pretty good defensive teams out there.
Well, Bill's comfortable at 3. He would prefer 2 or 1.
Wouldn't everybody?
Yes, everybody would. They've also won 9 of 10, so they're getting hot at the right time. Let's continue now on the 3-line, Keith.
All right, number 11 is Nebraska, going to the south. And number 12 is Gonzaga, going to the west.
Ooh.
Yeah, Nebraska, the magical season. Will it continue? They have never won an NCAA tournament game. I think they do it this year.
I agree with that.
Freddie Hoiberg has his squad playing outstanding basketball. They got off to a 20-0 start. Had a lot of great wins. They've struggled a little bit with some injuries and illness, losing 4 out of their last 6. And remember, Freddie, too, has had success in the NCAA tournament with Iowa State. So I think this is the year where Nebraska gets it done and wins an NCAA tournament game, and they are up to a 3 seed, which is very impressive.
Yeah, and right now they'd be in the same region as Iowa State.
The road ends here. How twisting and turning! Clinton, bingo! Is he dynamite? Sharp! He walked. He can't touch it. He can't. 1 second, and it's over. It's a great day to be a Gator. Florida is back on top. They win the national title.
A magical night in San Antonio for Florida as the Gators now look to go back-to-back for the 2nd time in school history. Todd Golden's team currently a 3 seed as we now continue the reveal and round out the top 16 here, Keith, with the number 4 seeds.
Yeah, the number 13 seed would be Texas Tech in the south.
Wow.
Number 14 would be Michigan State in the west. The number 15 would be Vanderbilt in the east. And the number 16 is Virginia in the Midwest.
Okay, I heard a wow.
Yes, you did hear a wow, because in my own little personal exercise, in light of the very deflating injury news around J.T. Toppin, I moved Texas Tech personally outside of the top 16. So, Keith, the question to you is, how did the committee view, and how did you get to Texas Tech being where they were seated?
Yeah, that's a great question, Clark. On Wednesday, we had Texas Tech on the 3 line.
Okay, there you go.
And we found out about the severity of J.T. Toppin's injury. And when we scrubbed on Thursday morning with that knowledge, They ended up dropping to the 4 line.
Got you. Okay.
Have you ever said scrub so much?
Not on TV.
So who just missed? Obviously, there's a whole field of 68. Who just missed being on this board today as a top 4 seed?
Yeah, Alabama and Arkansas. Mitty talked a lot about them getting to that 16 line, but they just didn't quite make it.
Okay. Yeah. They had a great game the other day.
They sure did. One of the best of the season. There have been a lot of good ones, too.
Yeah. Now, for everyone at home, the actual overall seed for these teams is in parentheses next to them. And so, Clark, we're looking for balance, right?
Yeah, balance, because you don't want to have any more than a number of 6 between these regions. So we've got 33 here is the total number. Then we've got 25 and 7, 32 there. So 32, 33, wow. 25, 32, 34 right here, and then 11, 23, 37 there. So you see 32, 33, 34, 37. That's a pretty tight field when you look at the balance of each region mathematically. I know you guys have a tough time with numbers, but that is why I am here.
That was tight.
That's one of the reasons that I'm here. Yes, that's one of the reasons that I'm here.
Because that went way over my head. So that was unbelievably impressive, and not least. But here's my question to Keith, though, so people understand. So you're going through this process. You guys fill out the top 4 lines. You take out your calculators, and you compare. And if it goes beyond 6, you got to make a switch. How did that process go here?
Absolutely. And so when we first looked at the bracket, we had 39 was the highest value we had, and 30 was the lowest.
Wow.
That's outside the principal. And so we actually had to swap Virginia and Michigan State. And when we do that, that gets us to that 37, 32.
So just one move.
One move.
So you had Michigan State in the Midwest, though, in Chicago. Okay. I'm Izzo online, too. You sent us to San Jose.
Number 1, let's recap the top 16 seeds, which we revealed earlier. Michigan is the number 1 overall, with Duke, Arizona, and Iowa State rounding out the top 4. A lot can happen between now and Selection Sunday, as some teams have learned the hard way, Wally. There's losses, and then there's losses.
Yeah, injury and availability, especially Caleb Wilson. Not only does it affect UNC and how they are seen, as their seeds, but also a team like NC State gets to play Carolina without Caleb Wilson. They get a quad 1 win. How does that come into play when you're evaluating a team like NC State on Selection Sunday?
Yeah, it's a great question, because the context matters, and so we're trying to really have a nuanced evaluation of wins and losses, and so player availability is really important then. Your 2 best scorers aren't in the game. That's going to impact it versus, the teams that beat that team with those players available. So I do think it's impactful. We've seen it up and down the seed line so far, because it's impacted us a lot this year.
One name not on this list, Charles Bediako, as we all know, played 5 games for Alabama. You mentioned that Alabama was very close to being in his top 16. Was that a factor in your decision to leave them out? And then also you have a team like Auburn, which could be on the bubble in a few weeks, lost to Alabama when they did have Bediako. Is that something that could impact that decision?
We certainly talked about it a lot. They were 3-2 with Bediako, 16-5 without him. And so we didn't necessarily apply like a material change to that, just because it seemed like it wasn't as impactful as maybe some of the other injuries may or may not be.
And they got a few more weeks to play again without him. And you got a few more weeks to scrub those seeds and get ready for the real thing. Keith, great work.
Yeah, thank you.
Great having you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, great job. Thank you for joining us, and safe travels as well.
Thank you.
Winter is here again. We look forward to seeing everybody 3 weeks from tomorrow on Selection Sunday, when the field of 68 teams for this year's men's NCAA tournament will be announced right here on CBS.